What is good, y'all? Jimble Jamble here, back for another one. Saka. The deck is still broken. I said in the ban list discussion video that it was going to be a mystery. The mystery was solved, and the deck is unbelievable, I think. So, and a lot of people think it's not. So I'm just going to prove them all wrong with this little showcase I got for y'all today, with a couple games with Blue Black Sakazuki. So I got two deck lists for y'all. We're only going to run one of the deck lists today. But, there's different styles you can try out with. So whatever fits, your general play style, you can switch. But one of those builds was a lot more my kind of play style. It's a lot more of a consistency kind of game rather than an all gas kind of thing. So we're just going to go straight into the deck list. Alrighty, y'all. So we got two different lists for Saka. We have a list with searchers and a list without searchers. We're going to be getting to that here in a second. But this is the version we're going to be playing with today. With the Tashigi and brand new searchers, help search a fair chunk of the deck. It's really just all about removal. Tashigi to search along with brand new. Suru as a good searchable 2K off of both of those. We have the Mancherry that can help add back Rebeecas if we, run out of it, because this is kind of the powerhouse card of the deck. Rebeeca into Hina into Lucci is kind of the ideal thing going on there. And then we got the brand new searcher. We have the Tashigi 2K. I definitely think this is necessary nowadays with Teach going around. Also 2K can be only searched up brand new, but it comes in handy. You can play it off Rebeeca if you need to as well. Then we got the Hina from ST6. This is the ideal trash for your leader ability. You trash a card, draw a card. This is the ideal trash because you're typically adding this back from trash off of Rebeeca anyway. So, you just might as well. And then we have the 4-drop Kuzan. This is the ideal turn to play. The card replaces itself. If it sticks on the board, it's a free -4 pretty much every turn moving forward. Really strong card. I think it always will be a strong black card until it's out of rotation. So, yeah. And then, obviously, powerhouse of the deck, Rebeeca, add back pretty much, I would say, 50% of your deck. Really, really dumb card. And you can play out brand new search. You can play out Suru extra reduction. You can play out Hina extra reduction. You can add back Lucci. You can even add back Jack, which is kind of insane to me. But and then the card that makes this deck playable in Rob Lucci. This is the card that everybody got mad at seeing it in the deck. It's a 4/6 pop a 2 and a 1. That reduction is really easy in this deck. It always was because of Rebeeca Hina. That's already a -4, so you can pop a 6 or 5 with that. And then if you have other pieces of reduction like Suru, Kuzan, or Tempest Kick, or even another Hina you just hard cast, or even like Stage and Leader ability when attacking, you can get some really good numbers in and be able to pop some higher cost bodies than you typically would. And then we got T-Bone, searchable 2K, can pop stuff, just a really good 2K in general. And then we got Jack. This is really here for the mirror match because it is a 11 cost on the board. Gains +4 cost while it's on the board. And it's a free filter and a pop of 3, which is really, really strong. We got the 10-drop Kuzan. This cannot be searched by any of your cards. It can only be drawn off leader ability or Tempest Kick or the 4-drop Kuzan. But this card is really strong. If it sticks on the board, you kind of just win the game. Pretty much every bit of your reduction is kind of irrelevant unless you have if you're going up against something like Shanks. Unfortunately, it is a 10K, so it can be popped by the Film Shanks. But if they don't have that, you're in a really good spot. That's it for the characters. We got, obviously, another reason to play this deck, Houndblaze. This card is really, really stupid. +3K to a character in bottom deck of 2. You know, I really don't know why they printed a card like this. This card's broken. You know, if you go Rebeeca into Hina into Houndblaze, you're bottoming a 6 cost with a plus 3k boost on anything you want. You know, it allows your searchers to actually get a swing in and actually not be useless sitting on the board for the rest of the game, which is just really the dumb part of the card. If it was just a bottom deck of 2, sure, whatever, probably wouldn't even be played. But that 3k boost goes a long, long way. And then we got Ama no Murakumo. This is Lucci in a 2-cost event card, and also bottom decks it. So if you pretty much need pure reduction for the turn, this can help, you know, become a cheaper Lucci for you. And you know, you have more Dawn for reduction if you need to, like, Rebeeca Hina, and then hard play Hina. You know, it's really hard to, you know, keep this card in hand because I just typically trash it to draw. But it comes in handy sometimes. Then we got Tempest Kick. Since Eruption and Ice Age are banned, this is the only reduction card you have left. Draw a card, your trash has 10 or more, which is fairly easy. Give a character -3 cost. And the trigger pops to 3. It's just a really strong event. Just, I mean, I think you kind of have to play this card. There's no real bad thing about it. And even if you don't need the reduction, it's still 1 cost draw card. Then we got the 1 cost Marineford Stage. This is another free -1 on the board for the rest of the game, but the first turn you played, it's a -2. So if you have this plus your leader swing, you have -3 worth of cost when you play this stage out. So you can get into some really good little reduction plays, combos, you know, the whole thing. But yeah, that's going to do it for the Saka list, the original version. This is a lot closer to what the original list looked like before the deck got banned, minus, you know, the inclusion of, you know, Jack or Tempest Kick. Other than that, the deck was primarily the exact same as it always was. You know, really just the inclusion of Gecko and like 2-drop Helmeppo, but that's really it. We're going to go into the non-searcher list. We're going to go by real quick with it. Alrighty, y'all, so this is the non-searcher version of the deck. It feels very interesting from the games that I played. We are not showcasing this deck today, but if you don't like searchers in your deck, this is the list for you to start off on. You know, we have the usual Suru and Mancherry. We have some extra, you know, little extra pieces of reduction, such as Toy Soldier, a 2-cost -3. You can play this off of Rebeeca if you don't have anything else to play. Same with this Utsa. Can't be KO'd battling a leader, which can be really, really good if you, you know, remove all your opponent's board on that turn. And it's also a -2. It's kind of just like the Annie's Lobby stage from OP3. So, really good card. Then we got the 3-cost Brook. People think this card's broken. I don't think it's needed. I think it's needed in the non-searcher version, but in the searcher version, it is not needed whatsoever, in my opinion. It is strong, but I typically like to Rebeeca Hina Lucci as much as I can, rather than just, you know, like a Kuzan swing, Rebeeca Brook pop. You know, I think that is a lot weaker than Rebeeca Hina Lucci, in my opinion. But it is a strong card. And also, I am a little biased because I don't have any copies of myself. I'm also a little biased because I don't have any copies myself, but it is what I think, for real. And then we got the Barto 2K from set 4. It's just a good searchable 2K off of the Rebeeca. You can also play it off Rebeeca if you want to. I don't know what world you would do that, but it is an option you can do. It's really just to add off Rebeeca and play it out for just a good little value turn if your opponent's board is kind of garbage. Then we got the Tashigi and only 2 Hina. I don't think you need this card as much if you have Brook at 4. So that's kind of the main reason why. And we got the normal Kuzan, Rebeeca, Lucci. Then we got the 4-drop Shira Hoshi. This is a pretty much an immediate Rebeeca. This paired off with a Houndblaze 6-drop bottom deck, a 6 cost, really strong. Then we got the typical Jack and 10 cost Kuzan, Houndblaze, no Murakumo, Tempest Kick, and then we got 2 of the Black Spiral. This is strictly for the green Zoro matchup. If you have 2 Dawn up, you can nullify your opponent's leader from setting back active, which is really funny when you get it pulled off. I pulled this off on a Zoro in one of my games off camera, which was really funny. My opponent quit right then because I was going to be dead if I didn't have that card. So, yeah, fun stuff. But that's it for the non-searcher list. We're not going to be playing this today. But if you want to play this list, go for it, you know. This list can definitely branch out into a lot more deck building capabilities rather than the list with searchers, because you're all about consistency, wanting to be able to add Navy cards, which, there's not as many Navy cards as every other card in the game. So, that's kind of the unfortunate reality, but this is just what I prefer, and that's what we're going to be playing today. So, we're going to go straight into a couple of games here, and hope y'all enjoy. But before we head into that, hit that like button, hit that sub button. It's not that hard, man. Let's just go straight into it. Alrighty, y'all. So the first game against Purple Yellow Rosi. This can be a bad matchup, considering Rosinante's leader effect. It can negate KOing Trafalgar Law characters by adding a life to hand instead. So that can be pretty rough. So it's really just a matter of being able to see your Houndblazes and Murakumos. So they do the 1-drop Law, add a hand rip Law, and then going on to my turn, I add a T-Bone 2k just to get some counter. They swing 6, so I don't go to 7 in hand, and then being able to play out that hand rip. They play a Luffy Searcher at a Kamazo. Going on to my turn. Trash a Hina to draw a card. Swing 5, play Kuzan, pass. Kind of the ideal turn 2 play. And you see me in the corner there shuffling my hand up because I'm definitely assuming there's going to be a hand rip Law coming this turn because I have no counter in hand. Yep, here we go. There you go. I just start going crazy on the hand. Just, trash a Sakazuki and Houndblaze. That's alright. We do still have some good plays for the up and coming turns. So my thought here was to try to get rid of that pudding to the best of my ability with the Murakumo to also get rid of that Law. And trash card. I don't need that Kuzan in that matchup because if I KO stuff, it just won't really work. Leader effect minus pudding. We are there now in perfect range. He kind of just took a life card for no reason. And then I have nothing else to do with the Don, so I just touched on to Shiki and swing another 5, get another card out of hand. Get a hand rip Law out of hand, which is sick. Heading on to their 6th Dawn turn. This is where they drop kind of their power tools with the yellow 7-drop Law or the 7-drop purple Law that just came out. They swing a 2 at the Shiki, that's fine. They use leader ability, get rid of an active Dawn, interesting. So they're going to play a Law, heal a, I believe, purple Law to life. Attack the Kuzan, I have to counter. Going on to my next turn, trash a Hina to draw. The hand is looking kind of whack right now, but I can definitely get rid of that Law. I really don't know why I did this. I definitely should have just played out the Jack and KO'd. That is my bad on my end, but I do end up being able to play a Rebeeca, get a 2k back. I definitely think the T-Bone is going to be better here. Going on to their 7 Dawn turn or 8 Dawn turn. They have that purple 7-drop Law in hand, making the leader and all of his characters plus 1k. Going on to Rosi's 7 Dawn turn. They play out that Law for 2 less cost. Swing a 6k at my Kuzan. I think I just kind of block here because I want as many cards in hand as possible, but just 2k. 5k there, I'm going to block. I got to get rid of that law to the best of my ability. Add a Lucci, which is not ideal. So with that Tempest Kick draw, you know, I see all my jacks really early on. Yeah, so I really have no option other than to just jack, potentially get rid of one of their life cards. I'm just going to drop the Lucci. Kind of force them to take a life card. They let them both die, which is huge for us. We now have two pretty scary bodies on the board. They're obviously going to die, one of them, but we move on. You know, we're still at 3 life. We're kind of cooking. There's not too many cards in hand, but we have Filter Galore. They drop another 7-drop Law, becoming a 6k leader. And then they drop a 1-drop Law. Okay, I guess they just might have made an oopsie there. They add a Beppo 2k. I'm going to swing a 7 at the Kuzan. It dies. I have no counter. So I'm going to leader effect. Trash the Jack. I don't need him. So I'm really trying to think, can I remove this law without using the Suru? That is a no. Big no there. So I'm kind of just thinking of what to do with this Dawn. I'm just going to swing a 6, get a card out of hand. That Dawn up, I was not expecting. Yeah, that is about to come up here in a second. There is a counter event that works in Resonante really well. So I'm going to swing a 7. I'm going to try my best to remove that. That becomes a 6. Yep. They use the I Love You event card. They use the I Love You event card, add a hand rip Law from trash. I'm going to stage minus, Suru minus, and then play out Jack, KO the Law, potentially forcing them to take a life card. Lets it die. That is great on our end again. Heading on to their 10 Dawn turn. I honestly don't know what to expect here. There definitely could be like a double Law play, or you know, I mean the deck is a lot of laws, but it could be like a pretty spooky double Law play of some sort. But they're gonna swing huge at the Jack. Yep, magic number. They get it. And then they're gonna leader ability, play out a heal 7-drop Law, add a Piss Kid 8-drop to life. Okay. That is pretty interesting. So I do know I'm not going to be able to remove this card one bit. So I'm just going to swing, you know, really crazy numbers onto life. To honestly just try to go for game. Just put him in a very vulnerable position for death. That sounded pretty bad, but swing a 7 at lead minus the Law just to kind of freak him out a little bit. And then I'm just going to Hound Blaze, get rid of that 1-drop Law, because you never know. Swing a big 8. More than likely they're going to take it here, which they do. Down to 0 life. It's really just a matter if they can play out blockers or not. A 9k on the 6k, they got it. 5k at the 0, they got it. They pull out the 2-cost Beji, along with the 4-drop Law. I'm going to immediately go for a search here, add a T-Bone. Then I use leader ability, do that. That really didn't do anything. But we're fine. I realize that I can remove that Bej from the board. Swing 9, force them to block. I'm still at 3 life. I know it seems like I'm in a very spooky position, but I'm actually really good. You know, 2 swings, 2 life left. I'm going down to 0. There's really nothing else that the opponent can do. You swing 7, I'll take. They swing 9, I'll take. And then that's just kind of GG's there. So, It is a pretty interesting matchup to say the least, but it's definitely doable. It's really just a matter of seeing your Hound Blazes, your Murakumos, really just or just any bottom decking pieces you may have in your Saka list. I don't know, but it's definitely beatable for sure. So we're gonna head on to the next game, which is the Saka Mirror. Alrighty, so heading on to the Saka Mirror, this is gonna be a mouthful to commentate, but this game was really good to say the least. So I go second. That's the optimal curve. That is the optimal curve to go second in this deck. So I decided to do it. I'm gonna trash the Tempest Kick. I don't know why I did that, and then I just attached on it, like whatever. I did some goofy shit, but we move on. There's really nothing I can do with the Dawn. Swing a big 8k to life. I take. Swing a 5k at lead. I'm gonna start settling in a Kuzan on the board, and especially if it doesn't get removed, we are in a crazy spot. I'm definitely expecting the card to get removed this turn, but they spend their Dawn on a brand new add, a Kuzan of their own, which they cannot play this turn, which is good on our end. We're going to swing a 5k at lead, just a simple 1k out with that brand new. Nothing too insane. Another 5. I definitely think I'm going to take this here, because I kind of want just as much gas as possible to just keep removing the board. And I believe right here I swing a 5k and a 7k, or no, yeah, I swing a 6k. I'm going to set up the stage just to have for an extra minusing, and then I drop the Lucci, pop both. I have a very strong board now. More than likely, the Kuzan's getting gone, but will be good. They drop a 3-drop to Shigi minus that Lucci. More than likely Hound Blaze, yep. And then probably just swing big at that Kuzan just to get rid of that body. Yep, big 10 there. That's a go. Going on to our 8 Dawn turn. We're going to do, obviously, just the play. Drop a Rebeeca Hina Hound Blaze. Just kind of get as much value as possible. Use leader ability, trash a brand new. Get an extra 2k. That's good on our end, especially when we're playing Saka. The deck typically lacks 2ks quite a bit. But going on to opponent's 9 Dawn turn, they drop a Shigi Searcher. Top 5 for a Navy card. Thinking on this here. Add a 2k Suru for some extra reduction, or 2k. Use leader effect, trash Murakumo. Play another Tashigi, which I'm definitely assuming they drew it off the leader effect. They play a brand new. They add a T-Bone, 5 Dawn left. Not 100% sure of what they're going to play here, but I definitely could be expecting a Kuzan. But no, a Suru drops down, plus a Hound Blaze. Big 8k to lead. I'm just going to block. There's no point in wasting 2ks when I'm more than likely going to be able to get that Rebeeca back anyway, because I have the man sharing in hand. It's big 10 on turn. There's really not much I can do. I mean, the board's really not that scary on my opponent's end. But I'm just going to Jack KO the brand new, because that's really the only body that can actually threaten me. And I'm going to drop the man share, get another Rebeeca back. We have 3 Rebeecas in hand, which is kind of huge. So opponent's turn, they're going to start swinging with a 5k at lead, thinking on what to reduce here. I definitely think the Jack is the right answer, which is what they do. So I'm going to take it. There's really not any threatening characters on board, so I'm feel safe with taking the life card. They're thinking on, what to do, whether it's, going for big swings or, figuring out how to Dawn out well with, cost reduction, removal, everything. But they Hound Blaze my Rebeeca, and then a 7k to lead with the Tashigi, 2k, 1k. Pretty easy counter there. 6 Dawn left on their end. They swing another 5. I'm just going to counter. Stage. Reduce Jack. Not dead. There's the 4th Rebeeca, which is kind of insane. So I definitely think I'm going to try to go for a huge value turn. I'm going to use the Murakumo just to absolutely guarantee that the board is clear of everything. And then I'm going to swing at that Toshigi. I doubt they would double 2K for that. Big AK to lead. They take. And then I'm going to double Rebeeca, add back 2 2Ks. That is a really strong 10 on turn. So, they really have nothing else on their board. Then they drop the 10s on. That kind of just tells me, hey, I can kind of just go for a game at this point. At the very least, I can KO the Kuzan with a Tempest Kick, Suru, Leader Swing, Stage. But we draw the Hina, which changes things a lot. Just have to play that out and then KO. Swing an 11 at lead. I pass the turn. We're sitting pretty, to say the least. Yep, that's a GG. That's a concede from the opponent. So the Saka mirror is quite a lot to deal with. I definitely had a bit more of the edge that entire game, strictly because I was able to play Kuzan right on curve, which is really just the deciding factor of a game. If in the mirror, if they're not able to remove the Kuzan, it's very hard to, come back from not being able to do that. So that's kind of just what I see the mirror as a, is my Kuzan going to get removed? If not, we're sitting good. If so, we're in for the long run. So we're going to go on to our next game in Red Rayleigh, which is typically a pretty good matchup. Let's get to it. Alrighty, y'all. So our third game in Red Rayleigh. Got a pretty good hand here. It's really just a matter of seeing as many Luccis and Murakumos as possible. Hound Blazes are also really good in this matchup. I mean, those 3 are kind of just good in every matchup. We see the Lucci. We're going to start off with a Toshigi, a brand new search. Add the Hina. I don't know why I added the Hina there. It would have been set in trash anyway. But we draw a second Lucci, so, we're clearly just in a really good spot. Being able to, remove as much board presence as possible. Going on to their 3-down turn. I'm going to start off with a Observation Hockey. Look at the top 4 for a red event or 3 or more red character. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. They're going to use their leader ability, boost Buggy up. They're going to swing a 6K and a 7K to lead. Unfortunately, I have no 2Ks in hand, so I'm going to be taking both of those. We got the Hound Blaze, though. We'll drop the Toshigi, add the Hound Blaze. Got to get as many of those as possible. That 10's on, not going to go too well. So I'm going to swing a double 6K to life, because I'm going to be bottom decking that Buggy anyway. With the Hound Blaze, boost up my brand new 6K at lead. So they do take that life card. Pretty much just ending my turn, passing it on to them. They're thinking on a trigger here. No trigger activation. I pass. Going on to their next on turn. I'm expecting a 4-drop Luffy into something here. Yep, they drop that 4-drop Luffy, reveal 2 events, play out the 2K Sanji from SC21. I kind of forgot how this game went. I think it went very badly for the opponent's end. It is not really an ideal card to play off of that. I'm going to swing a 6K at the brand new. That's fine. So if I were to have a Murakumo in hand, this turn would be a lot easier, but I definitely am not too scared of that 2K Sanji on the board, so I'm just going to Hound Blaze the Luffy, use leader effect, trash the Lucci so I can get some, the combo going. And then we'll hit a double 5K swing onto leader. That active Dawn, I did not noticed that on this when we actually played the game. So they used the Conqueror's Hockey minus my leader to 4K, canceling that swing out. Going on to their 7 Dawn turn. I'm not really expecting too much more than a Mulgun. I know they have that in their hand. Boost that Sanji up. Mulgun minus the Hina. Pop the Rebeeca. Mulgun's such a strong card in red. We're going to swing a 5 at the Hina. It dies. I'm going to swing a 7K and a lead. I take. It's a stage that I don't really think I'm going to need. Thinking of my options in the trash. I'm going to add a 2K. Play a brand new. Search a Tashigi. I'm going to use leader, trash a Tenzon because I don't need it. Let's swing a 3K onto the Sanji. I don't really see myself needing any removal events or characters during this turn, so I'm just going to try to starve out the opponent with some cards. So they use the Armament Hockey, or Conqueror's Hockey, sorry. I play out the Cheeky Searcher and add a T-Bone. Going on to the opponent's next turn. I'm sitting pretty good here. They drop a 2-drop Sanji that adds... Yeah, I mean... This was just kind of unfortunate on the opponent's end. Yeah, they're going to Mulgun me again. He's going to 5 at -2. Yeah, I'll let that die. And then they Armament Hockey. Look for a character or event. They had a Kid Killer, which is pretty spooky for me. Because I can definitely use a bit more counter or another Rebeeca. But if I can remove this Sanji, I should be sitting pretty good. I'm going to leader ability, trash a Shiki, draw a 2K, swing 5 at lead, minus the Sanji. They take. And I'm just going to swing double 5s again, and then just play the Lucci, get rid of that Sanji. That's kind of just what I see myself doing this turn. Just get some cards out of the life pile, and then I play out that Lucci, bottoming 3, pop the Sanji, and I just pass the turn. And we're sitting pretty good here. You know, unless they have like a bunch of rush in hand, it's definitely more in my favor. They dropped that 2-drop Rush Sanji from STO1. Interesting. That is typically not a card that's played much. Boost that card up. If they can just attach 2 Dawn under there, that's pretty scary, honestly. But I have 4 2Ks in hand. I think I'm definitely should be chilling. I'm not sure of, you know, what else they're going to drop. Another Rush Sanji. Okay. So I'm definitely expecting some pretty big rush attacks this turn. Nope, but they dropped the Kid Killer anyway. More than likely, I think they're just trying to get some board presence in here. They swing a 7, 2K, 1K. That's easy there. And then, yeah, that's just kind of it there. We're going to go on to the next game. Probably the hardest matchup because of a specific card in Red-Green Smoker. So let's head on to that one. Alrighty, y'all. So the final game of this showcase today, Red-Green Smoker. This is definitely a bit of a hard matchup, but I got the second curve again, which is ideal, especially with that Kuzan in hand. So I have nothing to really do with this Dawn, so I just play out that stage just to get the extra reduction. Trash Hina, draw a card, and I was able to get a Tashigi Searcher so I can get deeper in my deck to, you know, find the pieces I need. I did bottom deck 2 Rebeecas, which hurts. But we have another Kuzan if ours were to somehow get popped, which I'm not really expecting much here. So they swing 2 5s. I counter one of them and take the first one. And I realized I can't KO that Virgo because it's a 3K with Smoker's ability being able to boost the cost or power of Punk Hazard and Navy characters. So I'm just gonna, stabilize getting a Kuzan on board, and I'm assuming a. So I'm assuming a 5-drop Smoker on this turn, plus a Toshigi, which would definitely be very, very scary on my part. Yep, they dropped that 5-drop Smoker. They set 3 Dawn active. And the Toshigi. Yep, that is the ideal play. So good thing I have that stage on the board, because I'm going to be able to... Hound Blaze it immediately. So I'm going to use leader ability, trash that stage. You don't need more than one. Swing a 5 at lead. Get the card out of life, which is really nice. I'm going to minus that Smoker with leader effect. Attacking 5, they counter. And then I'm just going to stabilize another Kuzan. You know, if I can get as much reduction on board, especially if they play the 8-drop Kid version, it's going to be pretty spooky, to deal with. Also, with that Banish, that is also going to be very bad on my part. I kind of need as much life cards as I can. They Mulgun. I was kind of shaking in my boots in this moment because I was expecting a double Mulgun this turn. But luckily that was not the case. They just swing an 8k Banish. I take it. And then a 5k lead. I 1k out. Don't want to go down to 1 life. They drop another Smoker. So really, just my goal is to try and bottom deck every single one of these characters. We draw the Lucci, which is absolutely huge. So I'm going to minus pretty much as much stuff as possible, but I don't want to, go too crazy on pure reduction. So I'm going to try and just clear some board by attacking. That Hound Blaze really helps out with that. So I'm thinking about a 9k here. I'm going to use leader, trash that Hina. I'm going to swing a 9k elite because I just know I'm removing it anyway. So I'm going to bottom deck the broken events in my deck, KO the board. It's gone. I'm expecting something pretty scary here. Yep, the 8-drop Mihawk is pretty scary, and they play out another Smoker. 3 Dawn left. If they swing a big 8k at the Kuzan, it is dead. But they drop the 3-drop Karina. So making it a 5 out of 3, I have to counter out of this here. Now, this turn is insane. I'm able to remove every single body on the board in 1 turn with what I have. It might not seem like it, but it's insane. So, just prepare. I was actually really proud of myself considering how little I've played removal decks. But I trashed the Jack. Remove that off. Get that out of the way. I need as much Dawn as possible to remove stuff. So I'm just thinking, I'm dawning out thinking, do I go for game or how much reduction can I do with what I got? So I'm just going to start off possibly with a 5k to lead. Minus that Smoker. I can remove all the board because there's no Toshigi or Resonante on the board. Or that Koshiro blocker if you saw there. So I'm actually going to add back a 4-drop Lucci to my hand. Because I want it, as much removal as possible. So I'm going to drop the Hina. Lay that out. 5 minus 6. The Mihawk is a 2 cost and the Smoker is a 1 cost. Bro, it's insane. And I have that 7k swing with the Lucci left after using all my Dawn. I'm surprised they took it here instead of just free blocked. It's not even off the board yet, but it was probably just a mistake on their end. Pop both the board, swing a 7 at lead. Double 2k. There's no board left. It's just kind of over at this point in time. Yep, they just concede there. GG's. Really strong last turn from your boy. I don't play removal decks, so I'm, patting myself on the back real good for that. But it might not seem that crazy to, the average removal player, but it's cool nonetheless. So we're gonna go to the post discussion and just go over everything about this deck. Alrighty, y'all. So that's gonna be it for the Saka showcase today. The deck is still unbelievably strong. Rebeeca, Hina, Lucci is just a combo that I don't think will ever, be irrelevant in the meta. It's always going to be good. Especially paired off with Saka because you actually have you actually are in control of when you want to do that. So, that's going to do it for the video. Next up, we got six OP12 leader videos. We're going through every single OP12 leader in the up and coming week or so. So y'all stay tuned for that. But I am out of here. Hope y'all have a good one. We out of here.